Continuing the stripping down of this 1980 Opel Kadett so that I can prepare it for motorsport, I'm going to remove all the pedals now from the bulkhead. In my last video I removed the brake master cylinder, so it's appropriate that I start this one by removing the brake pedal. There's two bolts through the bulkhead and one up into the scuttle here. There's a little clip on this dowel that holds onto the bar that actuates the piston in the master cylinder that goes through the vacuum booster. That's the other bolt going through the bulkhead. You can see a little plastic cover that goes around the steering bar that I've tie wrapped to the collapsible column just so I don't lose it. There's just one more bolt now in the engine bay on the top of the scuttle that holds on the vacuum booster. We finally found some jobs I've never done before on a Kadett. I've never had to remove the pedals, so that shows how deep we're going on this project. It's the throttle pedal that I'm removing next. A little circlip retains the bar that it pivots on. The spring that returns it to its position needs to be unhooked. And then it should be just a matter of sliding it off, keeping all the bits together. The bracket it's mounted on is actually permanently welded to the bulkhead. And there's just this cover that retains the bushes that it pivots on. Onto the clutch. Cable is still attached to the gearbox, so I'll disconnect that. Two of the bolts that retain the pedal come through into the engine bay, so a bit of penetrating oil there to lubricate them because they've weathered a bit, and then undo them from the inside. The pedal is triangulated with a bolt going up into the scuttle panel as well. There's some difference with the threads that have had no weathering on the interior. I thought the clutch cable might just release when I tilted the whole mechanism to an angle, but actually the end of the spring holds it in place, so I just needed a screwdriver to pop that out, and then I could get the end of the clutch cable disconnected from the pedal. Then the cable could be pulled out into the engine bay, so this is useful to know if I need to replace one of those at any stage. I can pull out the speedometer cable now as well. I can also remove the bonnet pull mechanism, and this won't actually be going back in because this car is going to have bonnet pins now so that anyone can access the engine bay in an emergency. I'll look after it though, because it could be a useful spare for one of the other cars. Spot the roll hoop in the background, which will be going into the car very shortly. This is not the standard fitment of the bonnet lever. It's one I fixed up before, I think, after the studs on the bracket broke. That might be the one bit of bodywork welding I need to do on this shell. You might be wondering why I'm leaving the steering column and the handbrake in. Well, it's just to leave the car manoeuvrable so I can push it outside and give it a really good power wash. I'll cover up these brake pipes just in case they get used on something else in the future. I don't want to get any water into them. I'll pop out all these drain plugs so that the water can run out of the car when I wash it inside and out. This is like Opel Kadett whack-a-mole. These ones with the sound deadening are the most fun. There's even 4 in the spare wheel well. At least with so many parts removed from the car, it's not too heavy to push. And this is why it's useful to still have the handbrake. So I want to park it on a hill too, so it'll drain better. Even though there's going to be a lot of dust grinding off all these sealants and soundproofing plastics, it still reduces down the mess when you hit each of these areas with the grinder. For some of these surfaces, it's a once in a vehicle's lifetime opportunity to clean them down.
So I've Eric back in the garage now. I left it out in the sun for a couple of hours to bake in the heat, and I've taken it in and it's nice and dry now. Just going to take out the steering wheel, and one thing I noticed when I was going around the car with the power washer, I noticed that the roof lining is still in, so I better take that out now.
The side edges tuck in under the door seals, so this is a good moment to remove them. There's one sun visor clip still in place, so I just push the dowel through and pull that off. Other door seal. The roof lining's not in great shape, but I might use it at least temporarily in another car just to tidy it up until I get a decent one made. There won't be one going back in this car, as we'll be retaining as few combustible materials as possible. With the car stripped down so much, there's all sorts of new working positions available. So the roof lining is held up in sections by a system of bars with some insulation foam in between each section. There's little clips that hold the bars in place. You just bend them back and then rotate the bars out. The main support for the bars is at each side of the roof. There's also a bit that was under the rubber of the rear side windows, which must be a little bit of a moisture trap. So glad this car won't have those. More of those clips. And the last one of those bars. The interior is starting to look a little bit more purposeful. In my next video, we'll finally get on with something constructive. I'm going to trial fit the roll cage.